Hello, this is Dr. Flight, and this video lecture is on the power of purpose. So one of the challenges for organizations is to have a purpose or a reason for their existence. And so for many for-profit organizations, we have the primary function of returning some equity or ownership or profit to the owners or shareholders. And traditionally, that's how we define the purpose of a business. However, what if in conjunction with that, or in addition to that, organizations also had a greater purpose to fulfill some need in the world around them? And what would that purpose be? And if they had something beyond simply returning a profit, what would their purpose be to greater serve the people around them? So that's the idea of purpose in this context and how we're going to talk about it. So this lecture then is fairly quick and deals with some examples of how for-profit companies can interject purpose into their mission and their mission statements and their overall objectives as a firm. So please let me know if you have any questions and reach out to me. I look forward to hearing from you. Thanks. Okay, in this lecture, what we're going to do is shift gears a little bit, and we're going to talk about for-profit firms as opposed to nonprofits. And we want to spend a little bit of time thinking about the role for-profit firms play in providing value and purpose to society at large. So what do for-profits do to help everybody else out? I mean, why do for-profits exist? Well, for one, they provide a labor force. So think about everybody who works in a for-profit organization, and that's a huge impact on our economy and on our labor pool and so forth. Also, nonprofits or for-profits, they create value that people want, right? So they satisfy people's wants and needs. And they also are responsible to a large extent for innovation, the creation of new things and innovation. So for-profits perform extremely valuable and important functions within a market-based economy that shouldn't be overlooked. But the question oftentimes, especially today, is what else could a for-profit do, and what else should they do, or are they responsible for doing for society as a whole? We get into a conversation of what a purpose of a for-profit is and what they can do, what they do, and so forth. Moving forward, we can think about what we would like or what we think the role is of the firm, and certainly they are there to make a profit, but they're also there to provide labor and innovate and so on and so forth. And how they do that is often the question that we come upon. So can they operate and be good stewards of our environment, for instance? Can they create products that are not disposable but are reusable, or create products that can be repurposed when their use is run out? Can they operate in fair environments? Can they avoid trading partners and supply chains that fail to act ethically? So there's like a lot of questions now that are associated with for-profit firms in terms of how they operate and the function that they play in society moving forward. So that's kind of the idea here of the purpose of the organization and what should the for-profit be doing now. So as we continue to look at brands and products and for-profits, one of the objectives that we often have as marketers is to create an image or create a feeling associated with the brand or product or our company that we are marketing for. So sometimes we call these mission statements or brand missions more specifically. So when you buy a brand as a consumer, you receive more than just simply the good or the service that you're buying. You also receive everything that the brand represents or the mission of the brand as well. So from a marketing perspective, think about the image and the attitude and the kind of the psychological attachment you want to have associated with your brand. Here are some brand missions for different companies below here. We have Nike, who wants to bring inspiration and innovation to every athlete in the world. And they say if you have a body, then you are an athlete. Dove wants to empower women to embrace their own beauty. Apple wants to empower, create exploration and self-expression, creative exploration and self-expression. Coca-Cola, they want to refresh the world and to inspire moments of optimism and happiness. Google to organize the world's information and make it universally accepted or accessible and useful. Airbnb wants to make people around the world feel like they could belong anywhere. So think of these brands as having more of a purpose than just simply providing a product or providing a service. What else does it mean to buy these products and to be a customer of these products? That's the purpose that we're thinking about, and infusing that purpose into the broader mission of the organization as a whole. So yeah, I mean that's kind of having more of a purpose is what we're talking about here. So we see in practice that organizations want to have a purpose associated with their brands, attach more meaning to it, in other words, so that customers will feel an attachment to this. So specifically, why would for-profits want to do this? Well, one, we often associate profit motives with for-profits, and sometimes there's a lack of trust within for-profits. And what we want to do is create a stronger bond between our brand and the consumer. So sometimes we call this a brand image, self-image congruence, where the brand image is the firm's product image that they have associated with the brand, and then the self-image is what we refer to as the consumer's self-image. And we want to make those, be as close to each other as possible. So we have a brand image, the consumer self-image, congruence, and that builds trust. That helps customers feel better about kind of the product. Other elements here is consumers are far more informed and knowledgeable about the world around them and the products and the brands that they consume. So as a result of technology and media and information sources, we want to be more transparent. We need to be more transparent because the customer is very often knowledgeable about who we are and what we do. That's another reason why we want to build an image and have a greater purpose that's communicated, so that when consumers get more information about us, they'll hear this and they'll understand this. Generational norms and generational and cultural norms are changing, and they're shifting to expect more from for-profits and expect for-profits to contribute more to society. 74% of millennials view businesses as a part of the community and attached to that greater social responsibility. So 74%, 3/4 of millennials view that businesses should play a more active role socially in our culture and society. 87% believe that businesses should put equal emphasis on their business interests as well as they do towards social interests. This is a staggeringly high number. And it is a reflection of how self-aware that consumers are nowadays. And now we're talking about younger generational cohorts and what their expectations for businesses are moving forward. So this is all part of a broader perspective that has infused used organizations into something called corporate social responsibility, CSR. So from an organizational standpoint, corporate social responsibility is this broad business-wide concept that focuses on operating in socially responsible ways. So again, this emphasis is coming in large part due to that consumers are informed and that they have more choice and that they're making more demands on for-profits to behave in more ethically sensible ways, if not more socially desirable ways. So this is kind of the trend, and it's not going away. So theoretically, and kind of the backstory here is there's this notion of passive obligation. So originally, like a leader of an organization, a leader of a business would want to do well. They would want to treat their customers well. They would do some philanthropy work based on kind of interest that they had, but it wouldn't be really what was built into the firm. In other words, business leaders are often very philanthropic. They often want to help, but they don't attach their philanthropy work with the purpose of the organization. So charity and not-for-profit involvement was largely driven by the manager's personal interests, like the owner's personal interests, not specifically a business interest. So it's not that business leaders don't want to be socially responsible. Most are. Most are involved in not-for-profits. Most are involved in a church or a charity, or most are involved in doing some good just because most people are. So this is kind of a passive obligation from a firm's perspective. But that was kind of before. Now as we move forward, we think of doing well in terms of our community as an active opportunity. Okay, so now think about it. Let's say that a for-profit wants to make an impact on a market, and they know that that market's involved in a charity or in a social cause. And so the for-profit aligns itself with the social cause, and as a result, they strategically place themselves within the market that also is in line with that social cause. So now instead of just being involved because it seems like the right thing to do, now the organization's getting involved because they have business motives to do so. So they're leveraging this relationship that they have with a nonprofit or with a charity or something to increase sales, build brand awareness, and attain other business related outcomes. So now the idea is, let's use our social involvement as a tool to promote the social cause for sure, but also let's build it into our overall corporate image and our brand building efforts in order to gain a competitive or market awareness. So this leads us to this notion of cause marketing. So this is a for-profit like kind of position. It's cause-related marketing is often a part of a corporate social responsibility program. And what it does is it uses social causes to position the product and the brand and the company within a market. Okay, so that's kind of the idea here then. Consumers want and they seek out brands that support social causes that they support, quite frankly. 93% of people would buy a product that that is associated with a social cause that they're interested in. 80% of people are willing to buy the product that they're that's typically from an unknown brand. But if that unknown brand has a strong social and environmental stance, like I said, 80% people are willing to try it. 71% of people report being willing to pay more for a product that is socially or environmentally responsible. 57% of people who purchase a product of lower quality or would be willing to purchase a lower quality product if it meant that it was produced in a social or environmentally responsible manner. So in other words, firms that attach themselves to social causes that resonate within a market, they have people who are willing to pay more for them, people who are willing to accept less quality, people who are more willing to buy brands that don't have a strong brand name, but rather they just maybe an unknown brand, but they associate themselves with a social cause. Okay, so this brand image, self-image congruence that I mentioned earlier is absolutely kind of the theory and the psychological pinning behind this whole behavior. And that's why it's actually really important. Okay, so to summarize then, we have for-profit firms that serve a social role, and we know that there are greater expectations now on these firms today other than just serving a profit. As we communicate, as a firm communicates its mission, we have three things that actually happen here. We want to know why the firm exists and what purpose it tends to serve. So there's greater focus now on the mission and the purpose today because of changing cultural norms and expectation, technology changes that allow customers to get more information and know more about the firm, and also a general declining trust that consumers have among brands and companies. And this idea that you can align yourself with a social cause boosts that trust factor big time. Number three, what we learned today from this lecture is that firms evolve or are evolving from a passive obligation to engage in social causes to something called an active opportunity. The active opportunity says that we can use a social cause to align ourselves with a market that really wants our product and enjoys our product. Okay, and finally here, statistically, and the evidence suggests that consumers are increasingly rewarding firms that are socially and environmentally responsible. Okay, so this perspective then, what we're talking about is why a for-profit firm would want to engage with a social cause or a nonprofit entity. So from a business perspective, there's a lot of reasons why we want to do here. Now, this whole notion is encapsulated in a term called cause marketing or cause-related marketing. So cause-related marketing is a for-profit activity that focuses on aligning the organization with social causes that also align with market interests or consumer or client interests that are out there. Okay, so there's actually a lot of meat and good information here of theory that's kind of being communicated. So take time to take these notes, to pause the video, to really think about this, follow along with the reading and the text so that you really understand this notion of corporate social responsibility, cause-related marketing, and the intersection between for-profit activities and nonprofit activities. All right, and also, finally, touch base with me if you have any questions. Thanks.